What is going on, beautiful people? Good morning, afternoon, and night, depending on when and where you're watching this. I pray that everyone is having a fantastic day, and if not, then I hope this video makes it just a tad bit better. So we kind of got a lot to unravel, so I'm gonna go ahead and start the car up and we're gonna get into it. I never get tired of hearing that, bro. I never do. I'm not gonna lie, it has been cold as heck lately. It has been freezing. You'll probably also hear me like sniffling a lot throughout the video because unfortunately I am sick, so I apologize, you guys have to hear that. But it is what it is, man. You know, we're gonna make it through, so let's get into it. Yes, I am moving back to America, but I don't exactly know where yet. So let me break this entire thing down and you guys will kind of understand like what's been going on and why I hadn't been uploading. So for those of you who don't know, yes, I am a part of the US military. That is my job. I live overseas in Europe because that's where my orders are and that's why I'm stationed here in Italy. Now, I know a lot of people probably didn't know that because I really don't talk about it too much. I think there's only like one photo I've ever uploaded on my Instagram that's actually me in uniform. I try not to broadcast it so much. Not that I'm ashamed in any way, but it's just like one of those things I never really talk about where I work. But yes, that is what I do for a living. I am in the United States Air Force. Oh, that's my next door neighbor. Now, when you're stationed overseas, at least in the US Air Force, I'm pretty sure it's like that in the Army, the Marines, the Navy, everywhere. I just really can't call it because I'm only in the Air Force, obviously. So when you're stationed overseas, you get this thing called the DEROS. Now, the DEROS is pretty much like an acronym for Date of Estimated Returning of Overseas is what I believe it stands for. So pretty much being overseas comes with an expiration date. But when you're stationed in America, it doesn't necessarily come with an expiration date, so there is no DEROS for a stateside basis. So for instance, let's just say that I get stationed in Virginia. Well, I could be in Virginia for 8, 9, 12 years. It's very unlikely, but you can be at a stateside base for any given amount of time. I was on an extended long tour, which means that I was going to be here for 3 years. So in September of 2021, I was already told that I was going to be leaving Italy in September of 2024. So as soon as I got here, they were like, hey, you're going to be here for 3 years, then you're going to go to your next place. Now, where that next place was, we weren't 100% sure yet. That's a long time down the line. We just knew for a fact that we were going to be in Italy specifically for 3 years. All right, sounds good. I want to say around November, maybe November of 2023, that's when they kind of start telling people like, hey, you're going here next, you're going here next. It pretty much gives you like anywhere from 8 to 12 months to kind of prepare for where you're going to be next. All right, sounds good. I ended up getting told that I was going to be in Italy for another 3 years. So I was going to be here instead of September 2024 to September 2027. It's not the best, but I do at least somewhat have a little bit of a routine here. And I'm like, you know what? I already got my dog. I don't have to worry about spending all that money to ship her back to America. It's all good. So come to find out, my leadership was like, hey, you're not going to be able to stay here for another 3 years. And I was like, what? Why not? That doesn't make sense. And they were telling me because I couldn't out process from the same place that I'm already in process, then it would just be like an entire situation. Now, whenever you get to a base, you have to in process. You have to go around, do a lot of stuff, sign a lot of paperwork, have a lot of meetings to pretty much kind of like get you processed into where you are. Now, when you're leaving, you have to do the opposite of that. You have to turn certain stuff in, you have to sign certain stuff, you have to get everything taken care of, close out your PO box, all that type of stuff. Now, me personally, this is my first base, so I wasn't really sure how everything was supposed to work, and I'm just like, okay. So a dude told me I could open up a CMS case. Now, CMS just means case management system. So for instance, let's just say you weren't compensated fairly for something and then you need to open a case against it because the Air Force may owe you money or something like that. You can open up a case, they'll review it, they'll approve it and say, oh, okay, well, look, we have to give them this money back. Small stuff like that. But they were telling me that technically I could open up a case against staying here in Italy. Now, this is the way I look at it. I never want to fight to be somewhere I'm not wanted. Now, I'm not saying that my leadership didn't want me here, nor am I saying that they would have tried to retaliate against me or anything of that nature. But let's just say that you work at Walmart, right? You got a pretty cake situation at Walmart. Everything is good. Everyone loves you. You don't have any problems. But Walmart tries to fire you. Now, if Walmart tries to fire you, right, it wouldn't make sense for you to fight so hard against your management at Walmart to stay at that job just to have to walk on pins and needles 24/7. You would have a better chance. Oh, look at the police. They're staring at my car. I know they want to pull me over. I can't stand them. Anyway, because you could just go to like Best Buy or something who pays just as much and they're just as nice. And then you really wouldn't have to worry about looking over your shoulder 24/7. Now, that is how I felt about opening up a case against my leadership pretty much telling me that I wasn't supposed to be here. So let's just say I do go open up a case. And then after I open up a case, I tell my leadership like, hey, I opened up a case. I'm going to be here for another 3 years. And they're like, well, we told you weren't supposed to be. And I'm like, well, yeah, they said I could be. Technically, I don't think that they would have tried to go back at me or like go against me or anything. But I didn't really want to feel felt like I was overstepping my leadership or I was taking their legs out from under them. So I was like, you know what? I'm not really tripping. We've been here for enough years. I mean, there are things that we love about it, but there are also things that we miss about America. So that's cool. I'll end up leaving. That's perfectly fine. Well, what ended up happening was by the time they took it away from me, my window had closed. So they were like, well, you know what? It's not fair because technically you did get picked for something overseas. So they gave me an extension to be here in Italy for another 2 months so that I could try to get to another overseas base. Now, I signed a 4-year contract in the Air Force. So I joined in January of 2021, remember? So I get out in January of 2025. So I had to sign an extension on my contract in the military to be even considered for another assignment. I needed the retainability. And what retainability is, let's just say you have to leave your base in January of 2025, but you have to get out of the Air Force altogether in March of 2025. That means you're only gonna technically have like 3 months of retainability because retainability is the pocket of time between when you leave a base to when you get out of the Air Force entirely. Does that make sense? So if I leave my base in January, but I get out of the Air Force in June, that's technically 6 months of retainability. Does that make sense? So technically, I didn't have enough retainability to be considered for an assignment. So since I got out of the Air Force in January of 2025, I had to sign a contract extension for 8 months so that I could get out of the Air Force in September of 2025 so that when I leave Italy in September of 2024, they would consider giving me another assignment. So imagine if you leave your base in January, they would have to pay for you to move your car, your pet, your family, your furniture, all of that stuff, just to turn around and move you again 3 months and move all of that stuff again to your home of record. So it wouldn't make sense for them to do that, right? So what they would do is, instead of you leaving in January and then turning around and leaving again in March, let's just push their January move date out to March. They just can stay here until March and then we'll move them once and for all so we only have to deal with one move. That makes sense? I bet. So I did have the retainability initially because I got a contract extension from January 2025 to September 2025. So they gave me a 2-month extension in Italy specifically. So now I leave Italy in November of 2024, but I get out of the Air Force in September of 2025, which means I only have 10 months of retainability. But remember, you need 12 to get a base. So now I have to get another contract extension from September of 2025 to November of 2025 so I could have 12 months. So we're not really sure if we're gonna stay overseas or not. My wife and I are contemplating on it, and we're like, you know what? That was around the time I got ready to sell my car. We're only like maybe 4 or 5 months out from moving. I'm like, all right, man, we gotta start, getting everything together. Everything is pretty much coming together. We already ran my credit. We're just waiting to see where we're gonna get stationed so we can buy a house. We wanted to buy a house before we got there so we could pretty much just settle in. I was gonna send my car early. Everything is everything. My mother-in-law works for this agency and they pretty much like close on houses and do a lot of other stuff. I couldn't tell you exactly like what her role is, but I know a lot of times she like notarizes paperwork and stuff. She'll probably be somewhere down in the comment section laughing at me and trying to clear up what it is that she does because I'm probably 1,000% off on what her job role is. But to my knowledge, she doesn't sell houses, but I think she closes on houses. I honestly have no idea. But she put us in contact with this lady who has her own firm. But at this point, we were waiting to find out where we were going, but we just knew we wanted to buy a house beforehand. So the lady was pretty much telling us, if you're gonna use a VA loan, you need to have at least this much time left on your contract or something along those lines. I can't remember. So one of the pieces of paperwork that I got said I was gonna be getting out of the Air Force in November of 2025. Everything was good. But one piece of paperwork said I wasn't leaving Italy until September of 2025. Now, mind you, remember at first it was September 2024. I got Italy. They took it away, gave me the 2-month extension, and it went to November of 2024. I go check the paperwork. I go talk to my office. They're like, hey, look, we're sorry to tell you, but it looks like you didn't get a base. You asked for a 2-month extension. They gave you 12. So you're here for another 1.5 years. It's only like March or April, but I just found out I'm gonna be here until next September. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like what in the heck is going on? So pretty much they told me again, if you want, you can open up a CMS case. Now, if I open up this CMS case, since the window of time is already closed and I'm supposed to be technically leaving in like 4 months, they're like, if you open up this CMS case and get it changed back to what you originally wanted, you're just gonna get put anywhere. You're not gonna have any say in where you go. So I'm like, okay, that's not good. What are my other options? And they were pretty much like, your other options are you can either change it and then go wherever the Air Force push you, or number 2, you can just ride it out and stay here for another 1.5 years. So I'm like, okay, but I've already run my credit. I'm getting ready to buy a house. I'm just trying to find out where I'm going. I was like, you know what? Screw it. We'll stay for another 1.5 years. So we stay for another 1.5 years. When the overseas listing comes out, the only thing that's really on there is like Guam. My wife is like, you know what? I don't really want to live on an island, so we're not going to do that. And then they had the opportunity to go to Japan. We really did want to go to Japan, but I was told that there was going to be a problem with the breed of dog that I have, and I wasn't leaving my dog behind because she's family. To me, that's like leaving behind a kid or like leaving behind my wife. I'm just not going to do it. So I'm like, okay, dude, if it's not one thing, it's another. So I'm like, you know what? Nothing overseas. Let's just go back to America. So I ended up having to get a contract extension extension. This is like my 4th or 5th extension. I'm having to get an extension on my contract to September of 2026. So now I get out of the Air Force in September of 2026, so I can leave here in September 2025 and be considered for a base. So boom, they tell everybody like, hey, you guys are gonna be finding out where you're going no later than the 15th of February. So the 14th of February rolls around, I'm like, all right, it's a Friday. So I talk to my leadership, they're like, yeah, we don't know what's going on. Everybody's gotten theirs. It's literally, I'm the only person. When I tell you the only person, like numero uno, they said until the 15th, you may find something out on Saturday. So I'm like, dude, I have no idea what's going on. So Saturday rolls around, I still don't find anything out. I was off for Monday because of President's Day. Monday rolls around, I still don't know anything. So at this point, I'm still in the blind. Everybody knows where they're going. I don't know what my situation is. I just know, and I mean, I just know it in my gut. Something is gonna happen. They're gonna be like, hey dude, you're gonna have to be here for another 6 months. Because nothing about this situation has been easy. I don't know what it is. Maybe Italy hates me, so it wants to trap me here, or it loves me so much that it doesn't want to let me go. But I feel like every time I turn around, dude, I cannot get out of here. I'm not really complaining. You know, it's a great opportunity for my kids to get a chance to see the world a little bit more. We've been to like a bunch of different countries. We've seen a bunch of different things. I've had a bunch of fun. But at the same time, I am ready to get back to America, because every moment that ticks is literally just me thinking about me being around my father and my son being around my father. My dad told me like, dude, as soon as you touch down, dude, just let me know where. He is so happy to meet my son, bro. Like, he cannot contain his excitement. And I completely understand, because when I see all of us in the room for the first time together, bro, I'm probably going to like, I don't know, dude, I'm probably just gonna like freaking break down crying. Like, I'm so excited for that moment. So if you're wondering why I've been gone for so long, bro, that is the situation. Like, that's why I haven't been around. That's why I haven't been uploading. That's why I haven't been posting, because I've really been dealing with that for the better half of, I don't know, man, maybe like a year, maybe a year and a half, that I have been uploading like here and there. But that's what took me so long to even start YouTube, because I was dealing with that. And I was like, well, do I want to start my page here, or do I want to wait until I leave? When I found out I was going to be here for a while, that's when I ended up starting the page here. But then I had to deal with this situation again. So now it kind of threw me off, and it was just like a bunch. I was going to upload. I don't know, dude. Sometimes when you're dealing with something mentally, it just kind of makes it hard for you to be consistent in other avenues of life. But I'm trying to fight through that little bit of adversity, because I know like this too shall pass. And it's really not that big of a thing, but it's just kind of like been this cloud hanging over my head. So, but I do truly apologize for skipping out on the content, because I do know for a while there, I just kind of went like silent. I didn't upload on Instagram. I wasn't uploading TikTok. I wasn't uploading on YouTube. And that's pretty much like what had been going on in my life, you know? So in case you guys were wondering like where I've been, that's what it is. But yes, I am going to be moving back to America. No, I do not know where yet. Yes, I do hope I find out soon, because as soon as I find out, I'm definitely going to be letting you guys know. Hopefully you guys rock with the content in America. This one guy told me that he feels like my content will pop more in America than it will here. I feel like maybe if I had a BMW or like a Mercedes, it would hit a little bit different here with the crowd. But when I get back to America, I feel like I'll be more like around my people. So hopefully the content does pop off. Hopefully you guys stick around. Aside from that, that's pretty much the gist of things. That's where I've been. That's what's been going on. Hopefully you guys made it to the end of the video. If you do, please consider liking, comment, and subscribing. Share the video with a friend if you truly appreciate the content. And aside from that one, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.